Welcome to Magic.ai, the operating system for hospitality. At Magic, we know an operating system is more than just software and systems. It's about people, because hospitality is nothing without them. So supporting the hospitality community is our number one goal.
I think there needs to be more of a support system. Like, you have to love this business and you have to love every aspect of it, including sharing tribal knowledge on what is successful and also tribal knowledge of what is a failure.
Founded by lifelong experts, we're building the place where everyone in hospitality, from seasoned pros to first-timers, can gather, share, and grow together. Plus, we're crafting scalable tools and AI-supported software to boost your business. Dive into our vibrant community platform packed with meaningful conversations and robust tools and templates designed just for you. Need more? Our custom software solutions have got you covered. From recruiting and staffing to digital playbooks and dashboards, we're working on building a unique hub of resources unlike any other. Magic is your single point of origin for important conversations, accessible tools, valuable insights, and more. Join us at Magic.ai. The evolution of hospitality is here.
And I think part of the job of a chef, I mean, you are essentially a traffic conductor. You're conducting the orchestra to a certain extent. So there are people that are always going to have their specific roles in the kitchen. And it's about identifying what that person is either good at or what they want to do and helping them to get better at that and also helping them to get better at the other thing.
Eli Sussman is the executive chef and partner of Gertrude's in Prospect Heights, Brooklyn, and a partner in Aloe's restaurant in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He's a Zagat 30 Under 30 and was a James Beard Rising Star semifinalist. He makes hospitality industry memes and reels on the Sussmans, his popular Instagram page. He has written 4 cookbooks, and his writing has appeared in Food and Wine, Bon Appetit, and Saveur. And he's wearing a neon green hat today because why wouldn't he be?
I feel no pressure to post, which is... Some days I wake up, I'm super inspired by either a real life situation that has happened, and I just think this is memeable. Everyone's experiences are completely different, but we share them together. That's what keeps me going every single day doing all these projects is I want to learn from people, and I want to put stuff out there that people enjoy, and that someone sees a video, maybe someone sees this and they're like, oh, I loved that conversation. It inspired me to go back to my restaurant and have a conversation with someone that I work with. Like, that would make this day so successful if someone could take something out of this and layer it onto their restaurant. Yeah, I sometimes have to toe a delicate line. I think sometimes new line cooks at the restaurant who I've either met via Instagram, because I have hired via Instagram before, or they only know me for the memes. They show up and they probably think to themselves, he's not that funny today. He's being pretty serious. He keeps asking me to do tasks, and he sent a plate back. Like, this guy's not that chill. But I think that overall, as a boss, as an employer, as a member of the kitchen team, I think I am significantly more chill than a lot of chefs out there. And what I try to do is I try to just work hard when I'm in the kitchen to show them that I'm just trying to set a good example. So, I'm going to cook, I'm going to clean, I'm going to break down, I'm going to prep with you, and we can shoot the shit while we're doing that. But like, your station better be set up on time and you better be ready to go. And if I'm going to be expoing that night, you need to conduct yourself in a professional manner. And then once things slow down, let's joke around and let's be goofy. And I think that people quickly realize that I have a bit of an online persona that is silly and sort of irreverent and at times bombastic and insane. And that is not necessarily who I am in real life. And sometimes there's crossover and sometimes there's not. So I'm playing a character at times, and then at other times I am actually trying to mirror what is actually happening in the hospitality industry. It could be my experience. It could be someone else's that they DM'd me a story about. So finding that balance is tricky at times, but usually once people start working at the restaurant, they get to know me and they realize that I am dry and sarcastic, but that I do actually really care about being a chef and about the success of the restaurant. And I very much care about them as people and what their career looks like as well. So
there's substance behind
juggling a lot there. Yeah.
Substance behind the player. I like that.
So speaking of juggling a lot, you're running 2 restaurants and you have 3 kids.
Yes.
And I have 1 child and Matt has 2. So we know a little bit about kids and trying to work. But how do you make it work? And what do you have advice for any restaurant owners or operators who are trying to juggle family life and running a restaurant?
Sure. Well, I'll put the caveat at the way top is that I'm extremely privileged because for a variety of reasons. Number one, I work extremely close to my home. That is a major beneficial aspect of my work-life balance. I live 2 blocks away from the restaurant. The second one is that we have a ton of help. We have someone here every single day who helps out. My eldest son goes to school every single day. So there's many hands on deck. And then the most important aspect of all of this is my wife, my partner, is incredible. She's generally just a beast of a human being, and she takes on a lot. And especially during the first year when Gertrude's was open, I worked basically every day from open to close. I would wake up my kids and then I would basically go to work, and then I came home and everyone in the house was asleep. So for the first year, like, she just really, really held it down, and it was her. She pushed me over the edge to take the job at the restaurant. She said, "You're always going to regret not taking it." And I think to a certain extent, she thought to herself, "I'm going to have to hear about it for eternity if he doesn't take this job." So she was super supportive and always has been. So all of that up at the front, the answer to your question is that our lives are heavily scheduled and very regimented, and there isn't a lot of room for spontaneity or improvisation, which leads to a life that maybe some might complain about and be like, that's kind of boring, because we have to plan everything out. So we have a insane personal calendar that matches up to my insane work calendar. And it's just, okay, who's waking them up today? Who's taking them to school? Who's putting them to bed? There's nothing sexy about it, but my wife is an attorney and I am a chef. And so she's very type A, and I try to be very organized because I think to be a good chef, you have to be fairly organized. So we just layer those onto our personal life, and you have to fit every single last thing in. And the last thing I'll say is, like, I don't really have any hobbies or very much free time. And I'm not saying like, woe is me. I'm just trying to be honest, which is I work, I have my family, I mess around on Instagram, and that's about it, and I'm okay with that because the restaurant like fuels me and I love my family, but I don't have the flexibility to just pop into a new restaurant and try it out, or to go on a vacation on a whim. Like, our lives don't exist like that right now because I am at the restaurant a lot. And then every other waking moment, I try to be at home with the kids.
I say to myself often, it's not my time in life for that. Like when I feel like I might be missing, like sometimes I'll think like, wouldn't it be really nice to sleep in? Of course. But I say to myself, it's not your time in life to sleep in. It will be again at some point, like maybe you will have hobbies again at some point in your life. But for right now, this is where you are, and I love it. And
I couldn't agree with you more. And my wife says the same thing, which is that, we did certain things before we had kids. And then there will come a point when all of them will be in school and they'll have sleepovers at their friends' houses, and we'll reclaim some of our personal time back, and that we made a conscious decision to have children. So I don't regret it in any way. There is some FOMO. There is a little bit of there can be jealousy, and the grass is always greener when I have contemporaries and just like old friends that are my age that don't have kids, and they're like, you should come out tonight. I'm like, man, I go to bed at 10 p.m. I'm not coming out tonight. But we did actually just go out this weekend for the first time since who knows how long. And then of course now we both lost our voices. We went to karaoke, and I've basically been like tired slash hungover for 5 days now. So, what was even the point? What have I done to myself? I was like, yes, I'm back. I'm out. And then I woke up the next morning and woke up all 3 of my children. And while I was like kind of tired and hungover, I changed a bunch of diapers and made breakfast. And I was like, I'm miserable. Why did I do that? Why did I go out last night? It wasn't worth it. So, it's always, the grass is always greener, I suppose.
I love it. So let's kind of casually introduce the Sussmans a little bit here to this conversation, but I want to do it in a little bit of a different way. For those people who are listening that are unfamiliar, I don't know why you would be unfamiliar, but the Sussmans really has this kind of interesting satirical take to a degree on the industry. And it's both like irreverent, like you said, and it also some days makes me sad because it's just pulling on truths that we know within the industry that are getting exposed in a new way through comedy. And you've done a really great job of bridging this like generational gap, I think, because there's old dudes like me that are laughing at it, and then I know cooks like that have worked for me or other people that are coming up in the industry that think it's hilarious too, and we're always kind of like sending each other back, memes back and forth that you've created, whatever. But when it comes to, I think, the actual mentoring of that younger generation within your establishments, like how do you help them see both the serious and the creative sides of this business, because you do both? And like, what's a singular lesson that you would try to instill in young cooks?
So part of that is just being in the kitchen and actually showing up and doing the work and relaying to the cooks, whether they're old or young, that right now we're at the job and sometimes the job is boring and it's hard and there are good days and bad days. And so I think by them seeing me be there and just doing the work and prepping with them, it satisfies both sides. This is a guy who actually comes in. I do spend time in the kitchen. Yeah. I own the place. Sure. But like, I will do the work, I'm not just going to hide out all day in the office. And even when I am on expo, I will come around and come to stations and stuff like that. And then I also like to keep it light and fun. And for me, I found my sweet spot there, which is that I know when to like tweak the dials. So I can tell them like, for the next 2 hours, we're digging in and I don't want anyone to talk unless I talk. And then I'll be the first one to crack a joke. And then they know, okay, like we're back in that
safe space.
We're back in that zone where we can kind of mess around. And I think part of the job of a chef, I mean, you are essentially a traffic conductor. You're conducting the orchestra to a certain extent. So there are people that are always going to have their specific roles in the kitchen. And it's about identifying what that person is either good at or what they want to do and helping them to get better at that and also helping them to get better at the other thing. So there's really talented cooks that are, in my opinion, way, way too serious. I think I actually help people loosen up and lighten up a little bit and realize that this career is a marathon. And totally. That they're sprinting. Like you're 22 years old and like you want to be the chef of a restaurant. Like you may be a more talented line cook than me and you might be better than I will ever be one day. But like I do have something to offer you about longevity and about a career and about balance. And so I will offer them a tidbit of information here and there. And then there's somebody else who is maybe too wild and too out of control. And they're like having too good of a time and they're living that kind of like romanticized cook lifestyle. And that might be the person who I'm going to pull aside and be like, hey, you know that I'm a goofball. And like, you know that I like to go out and drink and party as well. Like you've seen that side of me, but let me give you a little bit of worldly advice from like an old guy who's actually been around for a little bit longer than you. So I find myself at this weird crux where, so I'm about to turn 40. So in professional world, I guess I'm totally normal or even young, but in a kitchen, I'm definitely on the much older side. So I find myself able to straddle this line where it's like the younger line cooks look at me and like they see a guy who has like a gray beard and they're like, you're old as hell. I'm funny on the internet. So they're like, all right, like I'll mess around with you a little bit. And then the older guys in the kitchen, they respect me because they know that I've been around. I have like a family, like they maybe have a family, or like I've journeymanned in the way that they've journeymanned. So I'm actually lucky that I'm kind of in this middle zone where I can like go down and go up in age and adjust my tone and temperament to the person and the situation. And look, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes there's guys and they are just like, I know everything and you don't know shit. And like, they don't last very long at the restaurant because I'm not the right fit for them. And like guys that want to do fine dining, they don't last very long at my restaurant because that's not the vibe. So it's like, you have to find your home. And sometimes I'm not the right chef for them. And sometimes they're not the right line cook for me. And then we part ways, hopefully amicably. And like, that's just the way of the world in a restaurant. Like sometimes people are not the right fit and sometimes the timing is not right either. And then we move on from each other, you know?
Yep.
So the industry has been hit with a lot in the past couple of years, right? The pandemic, burnout, changing expectations. What is the biggest challenge you see for young chefs?
Yeah, there's so much that has changed since we've, returned, quote unquote, returned to the office after COVID. And I think a lot of the positives are that now line level staff has a bigger say in how they interact with the restaurant and their futures. I think that that's a wonderful thing. I will say that can go hand in hand with a certain amount of, there can be an attitude of entitlement and there can be a bit of laziness by people that want the end result, but are not willing to put in the effort. And so if you're willing to put in the effort, then I believe you earn the right with any job and any workplace to ask certain things to which you believe you're entitled. And then we can have a real honest conversation about them. Whether
what does that effort look like to you? I mean, is that curiosity, like engagement, like what are you looking for?
I think my expectations are actually like the bare minimum, but this is what I say to people when I hire them. I expect you to be on time, work cleanly, and respect your coworkers. If you do that, you get a paycheck every Friday and we will be good. That's really like my spiel to people. And you get people who are unable to do that then make demands beyond that I believe is unreasonable, because in any workplace, whether you work, like if we're trying to elevate restaurants, then we need to elevate everything and we need to enhance the professionalism of the workplace. And that's a two-way street. The owners have a certain onus of responsibility on them. And that's, protecting your employees, compensation, things of that nature. But also the employee has to show up on time and they have to do good work, and they can't just be a mess and throw everything back in the walk-in at the end and then be like, well, I'm going to be like on Top Chef one day. That's not how it works. And so I think I'm totally reasonable in my ability to meet people like halfway, or even I'm even actually going further than halfway, because I think the line cook has actually been able to wrestle quite a bit of control away from the chef. And now the hierarchy is not maybe as clearly defined as it used to be. But generally speaking, I think we know that there are better ways to make money than cooking in a restaurant. So you have to want to be there to a certain extent, or you have to understand that like it is a physical job and it requires a certain amount of skill and dedication. And if you don't feel like you're capable of those things, or you don't want to do those things, like I would rather have a conversation with you about it and recommend another job that might be better suited to your lifestyle. You know?
And you have to want to be able to develop yourself. I think that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah. And like, I'm all for people advocating for themselves. And I consider myself a person, a chef, an owner that has like an open door policy. And I'm happy to sit down with you and talk things out. But I also feel like I'm honest, and I'm going to tell you if I think what your ask is unreasonable, because it's not just every single time I'm going to say yes. Like it's not a post-COVID situation where like no matter what, it is a yes. There are still unfortunately hard and soft no's that have to come from management. But what I will say has changed dramatically is like people are now at all levels, price points up and down the spectrum. They are trying to create a more internally hospitable environment. It was like, we're in hospitality, but that really only extended to the customer.
That's right.
It was like, I don't give a shit about you. Like, you work here and I'm going to grind you down to the bone every single day. Yep. And now there's more discussion of like, hey,
hospitality for us.
Yeah. Like, what can we do for our people that would just be like a nice gesture? And some big restaurant groups do this a lot better than I do and a lot better than other people do. But I think it's on the small independent restaurant owners to find those little things that they can do, small gestures for your staff. You know, it can be like, it can cost no money. It can cost a little bit of money, but these are changes that need to happen so that your staff feels good about working there and good about the fact that you care more than the bottom line. Like, I'm a capitalist. I own a small business. I'm trying to actually make money, if you can believe it. I really, really am. But I also have other goals that are like really important to me beyond just the P&L bottom line. And I hope that they feel that when they come in to work there.
So with Gertrude's and Aloes going strong, you're doing the long distance chef thing. What is your setup like to kind of keep both spots running without, totally burning out? And how do you manage that?
Yeah. So let me clarify. So Aloes actually isn't open yet, which is good because Aloes, I'm from Michigan. My brother lives in Ann Arbor, and my brother and I ran a restaurant business in New York together for 8.5 years. It was open. So now my brother lives in Ann Arbor with his family, and I'm going to be a partner in that restaurant, and I will support it in every way that I can. And I hope to not be physically required to be there. I would like to come there and be there physically and, monthly, quarterly, as I can, show up there and be really helpful. And I want to work service there, and I want to, taste food with my brother and
sit in
manager meetings. I want to do all that stuff, but I am not a paid employee of that business. I am essentially financially backing my brother and saying like, this is your show, run it. And if you need me, I'm a phone call or a text message away. I am really involved right now from the design and architecture and general contractor vetting and marketing aspect of the process. So like, I'm really dug in and I'm hands-on right now. And then there will come a point when it's open and my brother is the managing partner and he's the executive chef, and he'll be there every single day, and we'll hire a GM. And then hopefully at a certain point, we'll be doing well enough to hire a chef de cuisine, and my brother can then move into more of like an ownership role. But yeah, running a restaurant, one hands-on and one sort of quote unquote hands-off is going to be really tricky for me. I'm not the most hands-off person. But my brother is like, he's a dynamic chef. He's very, very smart, and he's super patient, and I've worked with him before. So I feel awesome about Aloes, and Ann Arbor is a great college town, and they need
such a fun town.
They need great pizza, great pasta, and we have an incredible wine director coming on who was she worked at Estella, she worked at Roberta's, so she is like a real heavy hitter, and I think she's going to actually I know this sounds crazy, but I think that Aloes has the opportunity kind of impact what happens in Michigan, because we're going to take a couple chances there that maybe people will extend us a little bit of grace to, because they'll be like, all right, a New York chef and a New York wine person have arrived. Like, we'll have a go. We'll check it out. And we'll be able to do some exciting things there while still making this awesome neighborhood pizza and pasta joint,
Yeah, it feels like the scene is changing in Michigan. We just talked with James Galbraith, who just opened Postboy, and he was saying a lot of the same things, kind of like the restaurant community is really embracing these new, concepts and the ability to kind of attract their own demographic within their distinct regional areas, and like I love that. So
totally. I mean, I
cool.
make fun of, like, on the Instagram, I definitely make fun of the tertiary markets, these third market cities where it's like, oh, like the technique hasn't reached there yet, or they're copying what New York and New Orleans and LA are doing. But the truth is that all the chefs in every city, now everybody travels around, right? You all do the food events together, whether you live in whatever, Akron, Ohio, or Detroit, Michigan, or New York City. Like, it doesn't really matter. You've got people that have tremendous skill sets, and they've all worked in all these other cities. So like, the skill, the talent is everywhere. Now the question is what does the consumer want? So I'm always kind of making fun of it from the sense of like, are the people on the ground ready for the talent that these chefs are capable of? And I actually think that a lot of chefs in these smaller market cities, they're actually holding back a little bit on what they're capable of, because Michigan is still meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
People want like a big hunk of entree, and then they want a potatoy side. They want a starch side. And it's, so are they ready for my brother to do something that they have never heard of, and they're going to have to ask the server about it? We hope enough people will be ready. Yeah. And then for those that are not really,
that's a good space to be in, though, because you get to deliver value for them, but you also get to deliver some innovation that's kind of fun for you guys.
100%. And like, if we can sort of squeak them a little bit closer towards something that might be a little bit out of their comfort zone, then that's exciting for everybody as well. But at the end of the day, we're going to sell pizza, and that's about the greatest equalizer that exists in our country. So we should be all right there. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So on the Sussmans, which, by the way, I'm glad I haven't seen myself up there yet. I will keep an eye out. But it's funny that I have this photograph hanging in my office of when I was on the cover of the New York Times holding a dead alligator in South Carolina for like Cook It Raw or something like that. Fucking thing ends up on his channel.
Now you've put the wheels in motion, which is now I'm going to go onto your Instagram. I'm going to go 10 years back, and I'm going to find the most ridiculous shit that you were doing 10 years ago.
There's plenty.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is like, anything that anyone has ever done 10 years ago is probably pretty cringy,
Yeah,
so.
100%. Yeah. So how do you decide what to post, and what's the real impact of the personality that you've created with the Sussmans that you're sharing? I mean, how have you seen it kind of manifest its own life in the hospitality space?
Yeah, I feel no pressure to post, which is, some days I wake up, I'm super inspired by either a real life situation that has happened, and I just think this is memeable, right? And I'll give you a very specific example. So Ray Gun did all that stuff at the Olympics, and it was super topical, and I knew that I could meme that. That was so simple for me. The Jeremy Allen White, Calvin Klein ad, like, certain things just present themselves in the zeitgeist of the internet, and I'm snatching it, right?
Yeah.
And then other
cultural
times,
touchstones.
Yeah. And then other times I'm not posting for several days because nothing is really speaking to me. And then lately, as I've been moving more into video and doing reels, it's really something that happens specifically at the restaurant to me. And I think this is right for parody. So another specific example, the linen guy comes and he is remarking about how many dirty linens we've created since he's last been there. And I think to myself, dude, this is your only job. Like, the only thing you do all day is drive around and pick up dirty linens. And now you're surprised that my restaurant has created dirty linens. So I was dying laughing at his sort of his huffing and puffing about how he had to carry these out the hatch. And I thought, dude, you've chosen the wrong job. If you don't like carrying dirty linens around, they should have told you your first day, So that led me to create a reel about that. So it's pretty easy for me because, as you know, from decades, like, in the industry, the great stories and the anecdotes, they are widespread. And the other great thing is you think that it maybe only has happened to you. Oh, I have this hilarious story involving a leak and a porter and a crazy customer. And then somebody goes, same thing happened to me. And they live 3,000 miles away from you. So everyone's experiences are completely different, but we share them together. There's a commiserating and a self-deprecating, self-loathing vibe that exists in our industry that permeates like every level of the industry, and everyone wants to come together and share in what they've experienced over their career. And I've been very, very fortunate and very lucky that my page has become sort of one of those like meeting points, one of those hubs where somebody's like, hey, dude, when we used to work together, remember that this happened? And then they shoot them the meme. And it like
tag each other into the
post and it like strikes a conversation, and people are sharing it with old coworkers and new coworkers, and people are identifying about it. And I think right there is the most satisfying thing that could have ever happened with the page, which is that, okay, sure, people like it, that it makes them laugh. That's awesome. But the fact that it is like helping people maintain their industry relationships because they can send them a meme, which is what memes do. You like send it to your friend and say, ha ha ha, remember that time? And so when I hear that people have a WhatsApp group that is, 10 chefs that were all line cooks together, and they share my memes in their WhatsApp group, like that, honestly, like that touches my heart. That is so incredible to me that you guys can identify with each other about a specific event, and my meme sort of sparks that memory again. So it's been immensely satisfying to have these people identify with me. Basically just like my brain explodes onto the internet and people are like, that's my story. And I love that. So as someone who's been in the industry and wants to stay in the industry, I feel that camaraderie with strangers and with people that I know alike. And that has been one of the great things, is like you can share these memes and you immediately can meet somebody and you have a shared experience. And that actually helps people so much meet each other halfway when they might be in disagreement, when they're like, you know what, we're beefing about something, but actually we both have a lot of experience in this industry and we both have gone through the same thing. So why don't we just realize that, we both have a great deal of experience and we can kind of squash what we might be going through, or friends can rekindle based on seeing the meme. So that has been really cool for me, that it's been like a meeting place, like a community of like-minded people to poke fun at each other and to poke fun at themselves. Yeah.
Totally. Well, social media has really shifted how people see the hospitality industry. And there's no question that Sussmans has been a part of that. What is your take on, the good, the bad, and the crazy in the industry? Like what's one way that it's helped or hurt you specifically?
Yeah, I would say that, the way that it's helped is I get tons and tons of DMs from people that are asking for advice. And what it's shown me is that
professional advice.
Yeah. Like cooking advice, not like making memes advice. And what it's shown me is that having someone more experienced than you that you can ask questions to and that you can treat as a mentor is critically important. And I have people that I go and talk to and that I ask, and I've made introductions with people who I think, who you should talk to in your city. I know a person and I'm going to try to connect you with them. And then also just me saying, that situation is messed up. And I think that you might want to talk to someone about that, and being able to be that sounding board, whether or not I provide them with an answer or with an outlet. I think sometimes people just want to be heard. So I think that that's like a real positive aspect of it, which is like a one-to-one relationship of that. And then another positive aspect of it is, I think that our industry has been exploitative for far too long. And I'm not saying that I am the one who has changed this, but I think I am a cumulative part of what is pushing the meter in a direction of being more patient and equitable and more responsible to people's needs and desires when they're in the restaurant. I think that that's really, really important. And I think at the end of the day, it helps us all be better at our jobs. So I think I'm a small part of that. And then I think one of the negatives is that, even though I still make fun of certain things and people are well aware of them, they still continue. And so that can be kind of frustrating when everyone collectively knows that this thing is bad or that it should change. And myself and others have been talking about it and parodying it, and the news is covering it, and yet it still kind of persists. Yeah. And that can be really frustrating for everyone involved. But sometimes it takes a really, really long time to enact change. And even when everyone knows and everyone wants to, the hospitality industry is we're a cruise ship. We make slow turns, totally. we make really, really slow movements. And even when there's a lot of progressiveness at the bottom, it takes a long time to influence the major players and the big restaurant groups of the world. So that can be kind of frustrating when people feel like they're like banging their head up against the wall. And you got to say to them, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing the good work. And then another great positive is what we're seeing is a lot of things have changed really recently online in the mental health space for hospitality. And I am not really taking any credit for this at all. All I'm doing is amplifying the pros that do this. So Ben's Friends, Southern Smoke, I'm missing many, but those are the first two that are jumping out at me, IRC, Independent Restaurant Coalition. They're these great organizations that sort of were either percolating before COVID and are now doing even better, great work. But I don't think 5 years ago, were people on Instagram saying hey, do you have a substance abuse issue? Let me tell you who you can connect with and this organization that's doing great work. So that's been another positive part of the work, whatever I do on the internet, because I've been able to hear about and connect with these organizations and say, if you're struggling, here's someone who does this well in your community and they can help you. And that's what I think some of the immediacy of Instagram is so great for, because you can just connect and help people instantaneously, which is so amazing.
Totally agree. So let's talk a little bit about some of your other food media, because you have a bunch of published work, cookbooks, the whole deal. And I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about that part of you and how you kind of maintain that part of your work as well, because it's obviously something that's really important to you and that you're passionate about.
Yeah. So, I had this idea to do Talkin' in the Walk-In, which is this chef interview series. And I had for many years on Heritage Radio Network had a podcast, and I loved doing it in person. And I did it at this studio in Bushwick, and guests would come and we would sit face to face. And then COVID happened and everything became a Zoom. And I'm happy to be here and I love talking to you and this is awesome, but it wasn't easy for me to do Zoom interviews. And there were other factors, but I kind of lost my taste for doing these Zoom interviews during COVID.
Yep.
And I thought, how can I get back face to face with someone? And that led to, how can I get 2 inches away face to face with someone? And I thought that the walk-in is this mythical place where you can go and have a cry and have a private discussion and have a snack and
have a yell
and have why is no one organizing this place but me? And, so I thought that the walk-in was the most logical place to interview chefs. And so I've launched it. I've done 7 episodes, and it's been incredible to be back up close with people that I revere, with friends of mine, with people that I do not know and that I've never met before, and just jumping in the walk-in with them and saying, it's going to be cold and I'm going to interview for you for an hour. And we're going to do some hard-hitting questions and some goofy questions. And it's important for me to help share and articulate the viewpoints of others, because similar to you, you have a big platform, and now you're doing this. And I've been able to create a platform on Instagram, and it doesn't just need to be about me sharing my voice. I want to use the power that people have granted me by following me to showcase these chefs doing this awesome work
and to enrich the community, right?
Yeah,
and to add value to the community and to 100%. Allow people to make those connections with one another as well.
Yeah. And like, I'm fairly new to the cooking game. I have only been cooking professionally. I did a desk job for several years. So like, I am behind certain other people, and I look at it as I'm still like in school. I'm still learning. So what are my options? You can read cookbooks, you can watch YouTube videos, or if you're lucky like me, you DM a chef that you really love and you say, hey, can I talk to you for an hour? And you can learn so much from seeing how other people's brain is organized, how their restaurant, how their walk-in is organized, what their leadership style is. And you take little bits of what they do well or what you like, and you do it at your own place. I interviewed Charlie Mitchell, who won the James Beard this year, and who has since I interviewed him at Clover Hill, and he's since moved over to take over an operation at Kent Hospitality after James passed away, unfortunately. But Charlie had this sign in his walk-in at Clover Hill. And it said, "Do the right thing." Just a little sign. And I loved it. It resonated me. It encapsulates everything I think that's supposed to happen at a restaurant so perfectly. So I went back to my restaurant, I typed it, I laminated it, and I hung it in my walk-in.
Yep.
And if you're in the walk-in and you see something, do the right thing. You're about to go back up to service, do the right thing. It works for every situation. It's so simple and it's so wise, and I loved it. And so I stole it from him, you know? Yep. And I think that part of being a chef is mimicry, and some of it is stealing, and some of it is inspiration, and it all gets blended together in a pot, and then you try to make it your own identity, and you stamp that on your food in your restaurant. And this show and what I do online and with books and stuff is just me kind of taking someone else's perspective at times and shaping it into my own and layering my own ideas over somebody else's. And that's what keeps me excited about going to work every day, is hearing from the people I work with, like, what's an idea you have? Let's put it into effect. It is a two-way street. And that's one of the reasons that I love being in a restaurant, is because it is a living, breathing organism. Like it shapes and grows and contracts and expands.
In its ideal design, there is a great shareability that can happen in that space, right?
Totally.
It's really different than any other industry in that way, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it is top down. Like, you run spots. Like, at the end of the day, a lot of it's your decision, right? You're the person, but there is so much room right underneath that for other people to bring their life experience and their restaurant experience. And that's why you hire people. Otherwise, it would just be me alone in a room, and I would do a 4-person tasting menu every night. But like,
fucking boring.
Yeah, boring. Like, I want all these other people to be involved and shape it to what they want it to be, and be invested and like have a good time as well. So that's what keeps me going every single day doing all these projects, is I want to learn from people, and I want to put stuff out there that people enjoy, and that someone sees a video, maybe someone sees this and they're like, oh, I love that conversation. It inspired me to go back to my restaurant and have a conversation with someone that I work with. Like, that would make this day so successful if someone could take something out of this and layer it onto their restaurant. That's the goal,
or to go hang a "Do the Right Thing" sign in their walk-in.
There you go. Yeah.
Who is the one person that you've hired who has helped transform your business?
Yeah, I'll actually spin it in a weird way, which is that I've made a wrong hire once in my career, and
only once?
No, I've made thousands. I've made hundreds. No. But this specific one, I made a hire, and it was, I kept trying to put a circle in a square. Both of us, over and over and over again.
They can do it. I know they can.
Yeah. They wanted to. I wanted them to.
Yeah.
And it didn't mesh. And at a certain point, I needed to be honest with myself that it wasn't working, even though I it made me have to admit that I had made the wrong hire and made the wrong decision, and that it had been negatively impacting the business for a variety of reasons. And so put your tail between your legs and say like, okay, I didn't know what I was doing in that situation. I've learned a lot from that. I think about it all the time when making hires now. And, they say making mistakes is so impactful to making the right decision. And this one really proves that, because I think I've been a little bit better at hiring and asking the right questions since then.
Nice. It's affected you and stayed with you.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one's on marketing. What has been the most successful marketing decision that you've made? I mean, I may be able to answer that for you, but...
Yeah, this one's pretty easy. I mean, switching my Instagram from here's an overhead shot of a plate of food to here's me making fun of...
drag.
Yeah, here's me making fun of every single person under the sun. Yeah, this is... I mean, it's dramatically changed my life. So who knew that making memes and being an idiot on the internet could lead to you being on your podcast? But here I am,
Here you are. I love it. Okay, the last one is technically on software, but it can be anything. What is the one tool that you use every day?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, like the best tool for a person who is a chef and an owner is a computer, because I use a knife for 15% of the day and I use a computer for the rest. And I need everything to speak to each other. And we use digital costing software and digital inventory and email and Slack. And that actually has helped us be a more efficient and effective restaurant. And I am actually a better chef because have embraced technology. I'm not good at it, but I've embraced
it.
I've embraced it. And it's just, you know what? God bless the handwritten notebook recipe folks in our industry. But you know what I do? I run that book through the wash, and then all my recipes are gone. So I moved
shout out troglodyte chefs. It's time to level up,
So I'm all digital, baby, and that really has changed the way that I've learned how to be a good owner and an effective owner.